I want Kurt Angle to be remembered not for the mistakes he made, but what he was able to accomplish in life. What a journey it's been for one of the greatest to ever step foot inside a professional wrestling ring, and he's here to tell his story. I'm John Renton with my review of WWE on A&E Biography, WWE Legends on Kurt Angle. In my opinion, truly one of the best to ever do it. When he was on, there was nobody better. He was truly the wrestling machine. So many great moments on pay-per-view. Whether it was just being entertaining, putting on great 30-minute classics with so many goddamn opponents, even if he just had 5 minutes on TV, he was going to give you his very best. He was going to be the very best like no one ever was. But with that drive came a price. And he reached the depths of hell with addiction and had to battle through his demons and come out on the other side. Boy, this was truly a very jarring biography. He was very open and honest about all the issues that he had gone through. And even though some of these stories have been told, there were a few things I didn't know. And God, this was certainly something else. I do want to apologize for this review being up a little bit later than usual. I was busy with work and other projects, and I was just able to get to this now. So I apologize for that, but this was pretty goddamn jarring. Kurt Angle, truly one of my favorites. Like, just watching his matches, his stuff obviously still holds up. Prime Kurt Angle. Even when Kurt Angle was in TNA and was obviously not in the best place mentally or physically, he would go out there and just do some great goddamn work. He would just do some of the best work in his career. I mean, you could argue some of his stuff in TNA just as good as stuff he did in WWE, and he was really going through fucking hell, mentally and physically. So, we start off at the Hall of Fame in Orlando. Cena inducts him. Kurt Angle talks backstage about how, you know, his love was football and then amateur wrestling, but this is his first love because WWE has given him so much. And then we see a montage of his Olympic accomplishments, transitioning to WWE, the addictions and everything and other stuff, and various people chiming in. And then he said that I want Kurt Angle not to be remembered, or to be remembered not for his mistakes, but for what he was able to accomplish in his life. Both are going to be remembered because with the good comes the bad, with the bad comes the good. It's like, it's kind of sad I'm a laughing stock in my neighborhood. You didn't think you were going to get that reference, did you? So, growing up in Pittsburgh, his brothers were kind of hellraisers. He was his mother's favorite. The dad had worked in the service for a while. Eric Angle chimed in. I swear Eric was the one. He was the one that they used in that build-up to that match with Brock at WrestleMania 19, wasn't he? I think he was. The dad was a bit of a functioning alcoholic, shall we say. It seems like substance abuse issues kind of run the family. And you know, Kurt talks about having a bit of a rocky childhood, but he loved his mother and he loved his dad, obviously, but his dad had demons. His dad had an accident, fell on some rebar. It went through his shoulder, I believe. It basically left him brain dead. This accident left him brain dead, and the mother had to make the call, and that was really, really goddamn jarring. His sister was beloved, but every parent does have their favorite. Unless they have an only child, then they kind of have no choice unless they hate the little bastard. But anyway, every parent does have their favorite. And Leanne, the sister, was the dad's favorite. That obviously hit her hard. It hit Kurt hard as well. I did like how they had interview footage with Kurt, talking about, Kurt with hair and, I'm probably just out of high school, just in college, talking about all the, stuff that was going on. He talked about playing football and doing a really good game to honor his dad. I think his dad died on Wednesday and he played on a Friday. And he said football was his first love, but then he found amateur wrestling. He wasn't really a pro wrestling fan. He thought I guess he told his brothers, or whoever's watching it, that stuff's fake, or, don't watch that. He gets into the amateur wrestling circuit. A guy named Bob Bubb of Clarion University. He was a coach. And then he talks about beating heavyweights, even though he was a smaller guy. And then Sylvester Turkey, That can't possibly be the same damn guy that had a brief run in WWE ECW, could it? I don't think there are too many other people named Sylvester Turkey, so I'm like, holy shit, I forgot about that guy. Yeah, they teamed with Elijah Burke, and I liked that group so much I called him Elijah Burke Kai. The guy had obvious, amateur credentials, but anyway, it was cool to hear from him. And he was competing at an Olympic level. Like, Kurt was really rising up. He was doing great in World Championships, doing so much good stuff. Here's how he would work out. He would work out on, it was a John DuPont, like it was Foxcatcher Farms. I had to write some of this stuff down because it's a little bit difficult to remember. There was a guy named David Schultz. No, not that one that slapped John Stossel and should have slapped him harder, in my opinion. But he was an Olympic athlete. Rousey chimes in a few times because, working with Kurt and everything, especially at WrestleMania 34. The Kurt would do like almost exhaustion type of conditioning. He would do 6-mile runs in 38 minutes. I couldn't even do a 3-mile run in 38 minutes at this point. But that's also because my knees are shot. He would do 10 200-yard hill sprints with someone on his shoulders. And he would just get to the point where he would just exhaust his body. I mean, he was conditioning himself to be truly the very best. Again, like no one ever was. Yes, I'm just going to reference that a couple times. Try to have a little humor because things get a little dark. He beat somebody in the World Championships that had beaten him in, I believe, 38 seconds 3 years prior. The guy, John DuPont, apparently kind of went a little bit crazy. We're not really sure what happened. We're not sure if it was schizophrenia. We're not sure what it was. I mean, I'm not here to speculate, but clearly he had something where he was great at helping these athletes out and everything and, paying for their food, their trans, giving them houses on this, or giving them a house or a room on this compound and helping them out. And then he started having issues later in his life. And this guy, David Schultz, who apparently he was close to, ended up shooting him. David Schultz got shot, and his wife saw that. And the compound basically kind of went tits up. That was really goddamn sad, and that is just something where it's like it hurt Kurt Angle. We get news report footage. The wife was upset. Nobody knows why this happened. Obviously, the wife would be upset. And the wife, David, and the kids, I believe, lived on the compound. Well, there was a memorial in, I believe, January or February of 1996. And nobody knew really what to do. Well, Angle wouldn't be taken off the payroll because obviously the money was still there. I can't take blood money based on what he did. But then the wife said, would you join the David Schultz Wrestling Club? And he's like, I would be honored to do that. So that's who he wrestled with, gave it credibility, and he was able to compete in the Olympics. Well, obviously he ends up he competes against one guy that ends up breaking his neck. Doesn't mean to, but the way he does it, he gets thrown and can't quite land right, and he just crunches everything in his neck. Well, his chiropractor says, you got 4 broken vertebrae. That's not really good. We kind of need our vertebrae. And Olympic trials, he's getting Novocaine shots, which I guess you can get without getting tested, really, but whatever. And to stop the pain. And he would not be stopped. He would just go through everybody. Go through literally everybody. Of course, there was this one guy that he faced, Dan Chiad, or Chiad, however you say it, who kept going for his neck. But then it was his undoing because Kurt won. Ha-ha! And in the Olympics, he would beat a Mongolian who would not stop destroying that city wall. Sorry, I had to say it. Non-South Park fans have no idea what I'm talking about. He beat a Cuban Pete, and he's the king of the amateur beat. And when he throws, he gets a point, tick, ticky, boom, tick, tick, ticky, boom. Okay, I'm done. He beat a Russian, and he beat a Abbas Jadidi, and he won. Even though it looked like it was really, really close, it was the ref's decision, and he wins gold. Hooray! With a broken freaking neck, no less. But then it's like, what do I do? What do you do now? You train all your life for this moment. You win. You should get these endorsements. Yes, he was on Jay Leno. He's on a few stuff, but they skipped over how he's in ECW. Skipped over that, where Sandman got crucified by Raven. Raven did tell a funny story about that because people were saying, oh, yeah, because you're Jewish and Paulie's Jewish, wanted to crucify him on a Jewish cross. Oh, yeah, I crucified him on a Jewish cross and roll away. I don't know why that made me laugh. That was from the Forever Hardcore documentary Jeremy Borash did in 05. So, he skipped over the ECW stuff, though. That was kind of funny. And then they kind of throw the clips around Vince, entertain you in a more contemporary way. We feel it's time that you're tired of having your intelligence insulted. Wonder how many women he did that to back in the 90s. If you know, you know. So, he did a talk show in like August of 96 where he said he wouldn't go to WWE. But they did offer him a 10-year deal. And he says, I'll sign this if I never lose. And Vince kind of laughs it off. And that doesn't work. And then a number of years later, sometime in 98, Vince, and Kurt come to an agreement. Kurt basically he appreciates what the athletes can do. Of course, they put some footage from the Iron Man match from 1996 that Shawn and Bret had and made it like 98. I don't know why they did that. But nevertheless, Austin praised him. Flair chimed in after helicoptering one of the camera women. By the way, if you want to see what I said about Ric Flair's last match, if you want to call it that, check out a review a little bit earlier on the channel. And he did a trial in 1998. We see Tom Pritchard helping train him. Tom Pritchard, one of the best trainers. And he had to prove himself because he wanted to get the big money. And he had to undo his amateur instincts, which was to just not let people throw in. Basically always be in control. He had to give his body up. He didn't really want to do it. He was like, no, I don't want to do it. I don't want to fucking do this. And somebody convinced him to stay. Rock, the Dwayne Johnson, and Dory Funk Jr., who is still alive. I mean, that's good. I'm just always amazed when people that beat their bodies up for years and years and years somehow manage to make it to the ripe old age. Dory Jr.'s got him. I think he's older than Terry, so he's got to be in his mid-80s, because Terry's about 80. And Vince wanted to present Kurt Angle as a heel. Kurt didn't think it would work. He's like, I'm an Olympic gold medalist, Vince. They won't boo me. And these early vignettes, and I remember this stuff vividly, because I remember I was still watching WCW at the time too, but I was taping WCW by this point. I remember watching these vignettes and just thinking, you just want to slap this guy. You really do. You just want to slap Kurt. And he came out and he was getting booed. His first pay-per-view match, I believe, was against Shawn Stasiak as Meat. Can't imagine why that gimmick didn't get over. Not knocking Shawn Stasiak. He's a pretty damn good athlete. Succeeded pretty well in WCW. And then WWE, they pretty much just made him a joke. Planet Stasiak. Now he's a doctor of some sort. Making good money. That's great for him. So, Triple H talked about his debut. Austin talked about that. And, there's a lot of really good shit here. Just Kurt's early days. Just so many boos. Shane chimed in. They'll cheer me in Pittsburgh, and they booed him like crazy. And he got it right away. He got it pretty much almost immediately. He understood how to get the entertainment part down. Because he was so aloof that it made it even better. His matches with The Rock, they didn't cover a lot of his... For about the first 40 minutes, it was his amateur stuff. First 40, 45 minutes, which is fine. It carved out who he was. Makes sense. But then, how his persona just grew and grew. He took to it, did really great. He was just a goddamn natural, just a shit he could do. Kurt the Cowboy, little tiny cowboy hat. Fucking hilarious to retro review that entire Invasion Angle time. He was a champion, WWE champion, rather, within a year of his debut. No Mercy 2000. Kurt revisits Titan Towers. Vince hugs him, says, nope, cameras, get out. Don't want you to see me bang the paralegal, pal. Ha ha ha. So, excuse me. We see footage, probably shouldn't do the Vince impression at that point. Footage of writers' meetings, and Vince basically took a special interest in Kurt because he saw potential in him. Rock talks about the crazy attitude era. Oh, it was fucking awesome. What set was he on for this? Milkamania. He's the Olympic Dairy Man. Stephanie's the Dairy Queen. God damn it, JR. God damn it. He was so adaptable to like everybody. He did a moonsault off the top of the cage, missing the redacted, the man that murdered his wife and child. It should not be in the fucking Hall of Fame, you fucking idiots. And a lot of people just, this is one line where, God, Kurt. I mean, I love you, Kurt, but come on. No. He said, a lot of people think me versus Austin SummerSlam was the greatest match of all time. Who thinks that? I mean, it's fine if you really like the match, but I'm just like, who really thinks that? So, issues with Edge and Edge and Angle. Yeah, he feuded with himself. No, could have feuded with himself. Probably had a 5-star match. Austin, Eddie, Shawn. No Way Out versus Taker. Multiple championships. Defending championships at Mania. They didn't talk about Kane versus Undertaker at WrestleMania 18. Probably for the best, because that's super botched ending. But thinking about just what Kurt could do. Kurt versus, oh yeah, they couldn't talk about WrestleMania 17 because he faced Benoit. The guy that killed his family. But just the shit he could do. Even as his body was beat up, even as he was having torn muscles, he was having neck issues. He talked about how he just can't stop, won't stop. I'm having such a good time. The substance abuse issues, and I won't get too far into that stuff, but just, God, he was just, it was insane the stuff he was doing. JR talks about like the rigors of the road, beating each other up, taking the bumps. It's not easy. And at No Way Out 2003, Brock did something and Kurt broke his neck. Went through with the match Mania 19 anyway. The thing that Kurt put on that classic with a broken neck, where one wrong move could have paralyzed him. Fucking hell. He saw a new doctor that basically said, I'm going to clean out the problem and let the neck heal and you'll be back in 6 weeks. And then he broke his neck again. And he broke his neck again. And by WrestleMania 20, he broke his neck 3 times in a year. That's why he broke his leg and was in a wheelchair while he recovered. And he was the SmackDown GM. That made sense. By 2006, he had another 4 broken vertebrae, and he kept going. Then he tells a really emotional story about opioids, because in 2003, he was prescribed that, easy for me to say, and it just grew the amount he was taking. And then Vince was concerned, Austin was concerned, JR as well. They were trying to get him clean. And then Kurt talks about his sister's issues, and this fucking tore me up. Talking about his sister's issues, she needed money, and he was sending her money, but he found out she was using the money to buy drugs. She was $35,000 in debt. He says, move back with mom and I'll pay your debt. You don't, you're on your own. She moves back. He pays the debt. Tries to get her through this stuff, and then she relapses. And he basically has to say, you either get clean or I won't call you. He doesn't call her, and then she dies 8 months later, and then he says, I wish I had called her. Sometimes you got to put your foot down with people, family or friends or whatever, but just, that's the kind of regret. Suicide, drug overdose, that kind of stuff. People always, the ones left behind always wonder what the fuck they can do. They do wonder that. I've lost friends myself to that shit. Various kind of, I'm not going to get into here, but yeah, Kurt was dealing with a whole lot of that stuff. And talking about the amount of pills that he was on. He even had a Mexico contact that he would get painkillers from over the border. That's how addicted he was. 65 a day. How the fuck was he still alive? But then he gets released from WWE. Vince basically tells me to go to rehab. Well, if I remember right, I think Kurt wanted to do a part-time schedule, but Vince wanted him to go to rehab. I don't remember the exact story, but Kurt wanted to make some kind of concession, but he also wanted to keep going, and Vince wanted him to go to rehab. And it was just a deal where Kurt basically went out of his contract, and then he goes to TNA, and basically, JR says this, the debacle of his run in TNA, he's lucky he's not dead, seriously. They didn't really take care of people there, like they truly didn't. It was Kurt's choice, ultimately, all the shit that he did to himself. It ultimately was. He admitted that. The thing is, though, TNA was not a well-run organization. Neither was WWE at that point. WWE was letting a lot of shit, fly and slide under the goddamn radar. But he met Giovanna. This is after Karen had left him. That whiny little bitch. It's what she sounded like. Never was good for wrestling. But anyway, Giovanna, his new wife, a couple more kids. Then he starts getting DUIs, and they start piling up. She basically says, you need to get cleaner, you're gone. Then he gets then he talks about the detox process and all the shit that he goes through. Then he has knee surgery about a year after getting out of rehab. No pain pills. You have to figure out a way to do this. Do this on your own. You're not going back to that. Credit to her. Put up with more than a lot of people would. And then he does maintenance training to basically help his neck and his body and everything. He does live in constant pain. That's partly due to all the bumps and all the shit that he did to himself. And fighting through injuries that no normal human should have been able to fight through. And now he's got time with his kids and he's happy and everything. And I'm going to say this. I'm really happy for Kurt. Kurt will also not make it to 60. I really hate saying that, but I just fear he won't. He didn't sound good. He doesn't look good. I am amazed that he's still alive. I hate to end kind of on a cryptic note, but Kurt Angle truly is one of the best of all time. Just scary how beat up his body is. And how beat up he was before he went to TNA. And then how he beat his body up doing that shit. Woo! Rough. Very, very rough. But Kurt, when he was on, truly one of the best. So let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Rentlin. I'll see you soon.